Hello, students. Welcome to our week 2 grind video. We are in TECM 4100. Our focus this week is two-pronged. We are focusing on writing. This is our introduction to the Spence method for business writing. This style will go right along with other lessons you have learned in TECM, the principles and basics of writing in plain language, as well as focus on organization. And then the second prong here is critical thinking. We are going to start looking at thinking differently to make decisions and looking at a real framework to make decisions. Now, as you know, we have mentioned this course is focused on making technical writing in a business scenario because no matter what field you go into, many of you have different majors, aren't tech com majors. And you, of course, are probably very focused on gaining skills that will help you as an individual contributor or entry level person in the workplace. But we know that what is going to make you continue to grow your career, do well, work well with others, and get a promotion and move on and be effective in the workplace is going to be how you're able to reach others through, as Peter Drucker says here, the spoken and written word. So through your communication. Now, not everyone dreams of moving up the ladder, but simply to participate and work well with others in your department, we want to be strong communicators. So, as you're reading in the introduction to Spence's work called Organizing Ideas, we see here that sure, most people can write a sentence, and of course, we have AI. Well, heck, you're wondering why can't I just put this all in AI? But what we want to focus on is thinking of the actual order that makes sense in a business context so that the order is presented in an effective way for business writers to make an explicit decision. So our decision makers need to make a decision about something. That is the purpose of our writing. So in other contexts, you have probably learned to build up and keep that big piece of news for the end, but we are not doing that in business writing because business writing needs to be focused and help somebody make a decision quickly. The next two slides on your left-hand side have an example of a perfectly fine sentence which any business writer could write. However, if you look on the right hand side, we say more succinctly and straightforward the exact same thing. So this is a great example of kind of a before writing, and moving on to the right hand side, an example of technical writing. This is what we're looking for. Now, sometimes students think, oh, it just means cutting out words. No, that is not what it means. We want to keep the meaning and we want to write it in plain language so it's easy to understand while keeping the actual meaning and content of what we're writing. The next slide, you're welcome to pause here, or of course you have access to this in your modules. Another example on the right-hand side, a little bit more verbose, maybe AI writes in this way. And on the right-hand side, an example of the actual content written in plain language, nice and straightforward. So, as a quick overview and introduction to the Spence method, Spence says typically that business communication and emails that go back and forth, memos, proposals, they might not have a specific course of action and might not be clear on what all this information really means to the reader. You might be saying, why would you write communication that doesn't really mean anything? We're going to look at an example and make that abstract concept come alive here in just a moment. And the typical communication might not tell that reader what to do, what to believe, what to think, right? And we want to write decision oriented communication. So, no, we don't want this typical poor communication. What we want is decision oriented communication. It calls for decision, it provides help that some to help somebody make a decision, and it enables the decision makers to act. Sometimes we are called to put together information and recommend a course of action because that's what we're doing in business. We're moving business forward. So here's a scenario that can kind of help you see all of this come to light. So in this scenario, the sales team is under pressure to increase sales. The sales team says, oh, well, we're so important because, well, we're the fuel that keeps the fire of the company going. It's stated differently, but similar. They make the money, right? They bring the money in. the sales team says, hey, our competitors here are all getting this new CRM software, and this is helping them, and they're, beating us here. But we have these old computers and we can't use this software. So the sales team says, hey, here's what we need. We need all new computers, and that's going to increase our efficiency. All right, so let's say that you were tasked with understanding the request by the sales team. Is this true? Will this help us? How important is the CRM software? What does it cost? So in this scenario, here is a reply. This is the business communication. Now, of course, we think about this rather than having a small group discussion, being that we're online, but read through this proposal as if you were the person kind of tasked with the scenario. You're researching, okay, should we go get everyone new computers right away? That's what they need. That's what they said. So you're researching more about it. So read through this proposal. Okay, there are some good things about it, but does it help you make a decision? Is it explicit, written in plain language? Is it easy to understand right away? So what Spence says is we have these main areas. You'll notice the outline in the chapters that you're reading this week, and I provided in the module as well, the Spence outline. So Spence says we need to explain, why the heck is this important to the audience? What is your stance? Are we for? Are we against? What do we recommend? Um, Now, the essential background, that is going to be any context around the issue, kind of what's happening, what's the state of things, so that we understand where we are in this. Next, in this outline, the issues, pros and cons, what we actually recommend, and then what would be the next steps in this. So here we have it very simply put into this worksheet for organizing ideas. Again, you have access to this in the modules. Um, we have the significance to the reader and all those items that we just discussed. Now, here at the bottom, you'll notice, what is the best order in which to present your information? So there might be times where some of these are moved around. Now, typically we will start, of course, with the significance to the reader, but let's look at the example. So here is an improved proposal following the Spence method. Now you'll see this also uses typical TECM formatting. We have used some highlighting and bullets here to explain some main ideas. They've used paragraph chunking, so we have just nice simple paragraphs all left aligned. Now, what we have highlighted here, this aligns with these main ideas here in the outline. I would like you to do this in your draft this week. Of course, your final version and in business writing, you won't include these things. This is just a learning tool for us as we're learning this business outline. So, yes, we're going to do it now. It's a learning tool for us, but eventually you'll remove these parts. All right, so take a moment now and pause, read through this proposal, see how it differs from the one above and how using this outline improves the readability. That moves us into our next topic this week, which is critical thinking, and we have our soccer scenario. So of course it's not a table discussion this week in our online class. We're having an online discussion, but hopefully you've enjoyed reading the excerpt from our Think Like a Freak book, which is super fun. I love these books written by economists that take on kind of these real world fun examples. If you haven't ever read any of the books by these authors, I highly recommend them. They'd be super fun summer reading if you have time between your classwork. So yeah, so you're reading that and then just kind of thinking about, what would you do? Typically we'll have one or two soccer players in the class at least, who obviously will give some fun input into the discussion. But even if you've never played soccer like me, it's still fun to kind of and think about what you might do. And then, the kick towards the center is 7 percentage points more likely to succeed than a kick to the corner. So, would you do it? Would you listen to the stats and kick to the center? And if you wouldn't, why wouldn't you? So Would you take that kick to the center? I look forward to seeing what you guys have to say about it. All right, guys, so there we have it. We are having an introduction to writing, an introduction to critical thinking in the class, putting those items together, marrying them so that we can write intelligent and smart business communication. Hope you guys are having a great week. And of course, if you haven't already, shoot me an email. Let me know how things are going or connect with us on our class group me. All right, have a great week.